Okay, so we're going to be looking today at creating content for potentially a whole year for your social media. And I'm going to be running through the various steps with you. And it's going to be sort of fairly, hopefully fairly interactive. You're hopefully going to come away with, if not a year, simply because we don't necessarily have the time to create a year's content, you'll at least have the tools and the knowledge to be able to translate that into a year's worth of social media content. So we're going to perhaps in this couple of hours concentrate on creating content for the next couple of months, and you'll be able to obviously, as I say, then sort of extend that. So just a little bit about me. My name's Julia Ngapo, for those people who don't know me. I'm a social media manager and social media trainer, and I founded my business, Omnia Business Management, 4 years ago, I think. And we offer social media management, social media training, and digital marketing, so email marketing, lead pages, website tweaks, all the good stuff, with the aim of helping small business owners to get noticed in what is a very crowded marketplace, that of the digital world. So let's move on to what we're here to talk about. How far in advance do you plan your content? Hands up anybody who plans their content in advance. One lady there, can't see what, Laura, fabulous. How far in advance, Laura, do you plan your content?
So I've got Pinterest now scheduled for 2 months.
Yeah.
Instagram a week in advance, are scheduled, and I tend to choose Facebook on the day. That seems to be the one, depending on what's actually happened, how I'm feeling. But the others are much more sort of systematic.
Okay.
I'm running out of ideas.
Okay.
How are you finding Pinterest? Does that work well for your business?
It's very early stages. So Katie Cooper did a Pinterest challenge and asked me, she's my next door neighbour, and asked me whether I wanted one of her students. So I've literally just started doing it, probably the past couple of months. But in the lead time to that, I started writing regular blogs so I could actually draw traffic towards that. So I'm getting quite a good lot of impressions, but not necessarily conversions at the moment.
Okay,
that's the next stage.
Yeah. Invariably with Pinterest, you've got to leave it 3 months anyway before you start seeing any sort of traction.
Yeah, I'm coming up to that point now.
Yeah. What I ought to just ask, so that I can sort of try and personalize the advice that I'm going to give you today, is just to run down and ask everybody just to introduce themselves and find out what you do. So I'll start at the top of my screen. Yvonne's at the top.
Okay, so hi everyone, I'm Yvonne Biger from Astara Consulting. So my business is all about providing coaching and leadership training mainly to organisations actually. That said, I do run a small business networking group as well, but my main business is all about organisations. So I tend to use Facebook a little bit, and LinkedIn, I guess, is my main thing. The reason why I'm here really is because I'm useless at planning in advance, and then on the day I'm wondering what on earth I'm going to post. But I know that I need to do that. I know I need to have a proper marketing plan really. Thank you.
Annette.
Yeah, I've just started doing Facebook posts. I'd like to start doing LinkedIn at some point. I'm a mortgage and protection advisor, and it's just sort of keeping in touch with clients and potential clients. But I need to sort of personalise things more, make them sound like me.
Yep. Louise.
I think most of you know me. I'm Louise, and my business is Style by Louise, so I'm a personal stylist. So I use Instagram and Facebook. I do get stuff that I can access from Colour Me Beautiful, who I'm not employed by. It's my own business, but because I use their products, I can use their marketing material as well. So it is handy. I'd just like to personalize it a little bit more for me though. You know, I'd love to delve into Pinterest, but I don't know where to start. And I can't get to grips with Facebook and Instagram. I've got a little girl here, like, give me thumbs up in sign language. Yeah, I'd really like to just get these 2 platforms and get them squared away properly.
Yeah.
A bit more planning. Yeah, and then move on.
Thanks, Louise. Claire, morning.
Good morning. So I am an organizational psychologist and coach, and that's sort of individual, group and team coaching, and then also leadership and team development. So I have only just started my business. Well, I'm kind of starting to work in this space, but I haven't created a name for my business or anything like that. So I haven't even written any content yet, let alone started planning how to use it. So really early days for me, but I thought this would be useful just in terms of getting some thinking around how people go about it. I've been active on LinkedIn since I left my job. And I do sketch notes. So I've posted one after an event. I sketch notes recently, and that got loads of attention on LinkedIn. So that's given me some ideas for future content, but not really sure around any of the rest of it. I don't use Facebook for business. So I've had quite strict boundaries personally until up to this point, where Facebook is for personal. So I'm not even sure I am going to use Facebook for my business. I don't know yet. I may do for sort of trying to attract personal coaching clients rather than corporate coaching clients. But otherwise, typically I've coached in the corporate space where organizations have hired the organization I used to work for.
Yeah.
And then I've just gone in and sort of designed and delivered the work, etc. So not sure yet about Facebook. And I've heard before that Pinterest is quite good, which actually might be quite useful for my sketch notes because they are images really. So,
okay.
But mostly LinkedIn, I imagine.
Yeah, I think you're right with
my type of work.
Yeah. Laura, morning.
Hello. I forgot about LinkedIn. So I do LinkedIn a little bit, but not too much. So well-being. So I kind of loosely branded myself as mind, body, and gut coach. So I'm a qualified nutritional therapist, kinesiologist, and hypnotherapist. So I combine those together.
Okay. And where do you have a presence? LinkedIn and
all of the major platforms, apart from Twitter. I don't like Twitter, but yeah, Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, and LinkedIn, but all at different degrees of maturity and different degrees of desire to use them.
Yeah, fine, thank you. And Rachel, morning.
Sorry, just move locations. Hi, I'm Rachel Allen. I'm the Director, Chief Operating Officer at Train for All Construction Academy. So I run a construction and engineering college in Somerton. I predominantly look after the marketing and mainly, well, I use all Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. So I use all mediums. What I find a struggle with is I've got to post, whenever I post one thing, I've got to post exactly the same thing across all mediums. And I use Canva to do that, but it's just so time consuming trying to plan what we're going to be offering and the courses, and we do impromptu courses. And yeah, so I do need to get my head around planning at least a sort of a quarter in front, really.
Yeah. Okay, fabulous. So let's talk about why you would, I think we all know why we would want to plan our content. It allows us to be organised. We know what we're going to say and when we're going to say it. It gives us a degree of consistency so that we're talking about the same type of things. And for example, we know that on Thursdays I post a video or whatever it happens to be. It's obviously time saving. We can, once we know that we've got a plan, we can spend sort of, a couple of hours and you can have a really good idea of a concrete plan for a year. It only takes potentially a couple of hours. So blocking out a couple of hours in your diary, getting that plan, albeit in skeleton form, can save you lots of time, because if you're sat in front of Facebook every day or wherever you are thinking, oh, what am I going to post today? not only are you wasting time thinking about it, but you've then got to create it and find the image and all the rest of it. So it is time consuming. And it means that you've got something to say every day. So it covers the gaps when you're busy, or if you're away for whatever reason, you've got content there ready to go. And it helps you and allows you to plan your business year as well, helps you to focus in on what's happening in your business. So the first step to understanding content is to know your audience. Now, those of you who've been on training with me before will know that I bleat on about this all the time because it is so very important. The more you know about your audience, the easier it is to communicate with them. So for example, it's much easier in theory to communicate with your family than it is a stranger, because with your family, you know their way of talking, you know the best way of communicating with them, you know their likes and their dislikes, you know the things that are going to trigger them, you know the language you use, how to effectively persuade them to, unless they're teenagers obviously, in which case, you know, none of the above is applicable, but you know how to persuade them, the language that will work with them. Now contrast that with a stranger. Of course you don't. You're approaching, it's like approaching somebody in the street. You don't know how they're going to react. You don't know what sort of language they're going to use. And it's important that everything you do on social media is aimed at that, at your target audience. Your language, for example, is going to be very different if your target audience is, for example, Justin Bieber fans, than it is if your target audience are high level, high income CEOs. It's going to be a very, very different audience. They're going to have different needs, different requirements. They're going to respond to different formats of content. Everything is going to be different. So the more we know about our audience, the better able to communicate with them we are. And the content that we create must be about what they want to hear, not about what we want to tell them. And very often we fall into the trap of trying to, it's one thing to demonstrate our expertise, but we have to do that in a subtle way. It's no good sort of saying, look, this is what I know, because your audience just get bored. There are various mistakes that I see every day in people's social media, my clients' social media, where they don't know how to communicate with that audience because they don't know their audience well enough. It's no good trying to speak to everybody. You've got to really laser in and craft everything to your target audience. And that comes down to the images that you use in your social media. So for example, if your imagery is, if your target audience is, for example, postmenopausal ladies, say, then the imagery you use, let's say you post a picture of, let's say our wellbeing lady is talking about, you know, water, drinking, you know, hydration, drinking enough water, and you post a picture of a hand with a glass, something as subtle as that. You need to make sure that the hand is female, and you might also want to make sure that it's a slightly more mature hand, because it's all got to resonate with that target audience. Subtle things that play into our subconscious mind. Now the danger is if we don't tell them what they want to hear, if we don't give them the things that they find interesting, they're just going to scroll past. There's always somebody else offering exactly what we offer. You know, there are 100 social media managers, social media trainers. There are, you know, lots of people who do coaching, lots of mortgage advisors, lots of style advisors. The difference that we make is through our personality, what we bring to the party. So we have to connect with our audience. So we're going to do just a very quick exercise, and those of you who've worked with me before will know this exercise, but you may want to revisit it. If not, you can have a little snooze for a couple of minutes. We're going to create a client or an audience template, sometimes called a customer avatar, sometimes called a digital persona, lots of different names. So with a piece of paper, I'm going to ask you some questions, and you can just make some notes. I'm not going to ask you to share it. This is just for you. So the first thing you're going to want to do is to give your persona a name. Now, I should point out that it's perfectly normal for any business to have several target audiences. If you're offering different products, different services, then they're not necessarily all going to apply to the same audience. So it's perfectly normal for a business to have 5 of these personas. But let's concentrate on your biggest revenue earner at the moment, your main sort of product or service. So you're going to give your persona a name. And then you're going to think about, note down gender. Now that might not be, some of these questions might not be relevant. For example, Annette, I wouldn't expect her to be specific on gender, because everybody needs a mortgage or, you know, advice at some stage. And then age, that might be specific. And again, these questions are very generic. We have to make some level of assumption with them. And then location. That may again be relevant. You may be talking the whole of the UK. You may be talking internationally. You may be talking within a 20-mile radius of where you're based. Whatever's relevant to you. Everybody with me so far? Fab. And then job title. That may again be relevant. What industry do they work in? Does it matter? If they have employees, how many do they have? Is it sort of 1 to 50 or 50 to 200, 50 to 100, 100 to 500? What sort of size of business are we talking? Okay, and then we're looking at their current life situation. Do they have anything particularly relevant that you could, you know, about their life? So, for example, are they pregnant? Are they starting a new job? Are they unemployed? Are they bereaved? Are they starting university? Are they reaching a new stage of life, perhaps? Anything that about their current life situation. And then the next question is, what social media platforms do they use? Now think about what they use in their leisure time, as well as where they are during their business time, because an awful lot of us sit, you know, in the evening in our downtime and pick up our phones and scroll through Instagram, even though we spend our daytime, work time hours perhaps on LinkedIn. Doesn't mean that we're not on Instagram or Pinterest or anywhere else, Facebook, Twitter, anywhere else. And then the next question is, what are their interests? Now this is about their life in general, not their business interests. So we could make an assumption that if you were Louise, for example, who had a I'm guessing, I don't really know Louise's business well enough, but I'm going to make some assumptions. I'm assuming that probably the majority of Louise's clientele are women. She's nodding, that's fine, tick. And they're probably, I don't know, probably age 30 plus, would you say, Louise? Is that fair? Now, any woman, the assumption, it's not obviously not the true in everybody's case, but the majority of women over 30 may have a family, may have children. So their interests might be based around their family. It might be around, you know, cheap days out with children, or activities with children, or home life. So the wider interests of your target audience, make a note of those. And then we're going to move back to focusing on, for the majority of you, for business and work for your target audience. What are their frustrations and challenges? What are the things, the issues that keep them awake at night? So for example, if we had a virtual, we don't, but if we had a virtual assistant here, then their clients' frustration and challenges would be too much to do, too little time, not enough hours in the day, a headache of admin, working on their business rather than in their business, not having the time to attract new business because they're too busy chasing invoices, whatever. So think about the frustrations and challenges that are peculiar to your target audience. And then we move on to where you come in. Where do you fit into their jigsaw? What would make their life easier? How could you help them? And that's obviously going to be with the provision of predominantly going to be the provision of your services. And then we look at what knowledge they want or they need.
What knowledge, or what was the second thing?
What knowledge do they want or need?
Oh, want or need, okay.
And then the last question is a bit of a mop up. Are there any other defining factors? Anything else that you can think, now that you've got a picture of them? Anything else that you could note down for future reference? So everybody got something down. Fabulous. Okay. So when we're creating content, we need to tap into our clients, our audience emotions. particularly when we're creating promotional content, selling our goods or our services. Because most purchase decisions, something like 90-something%, are made with the rational mind, with the irrational, with the emotional mind, not the rational. So for example, if you were creating content around a sale that you were, you know, a sale of your products, you could create a post that said, not long now, soon revealing, you know, our exciting deals, something like that, which is going to play into that anticipation, build excitement to the event. Or you could post something which said, our sale starts in 2 weeks. I mean, that sort of content is dead in the water to start with. You need to put yourself in the shoes of your audience, tap into that emotion. It doesn't matter what that emotion is. You know, anger is an emotion. So whilst you may not want to be spouting negativity, it could be something that, you know, has happened in your day. Maybe you've been let down by somebody, a supplier or something, and you can share that with your audience, and it will resonate with them. They'll, you know, potentially have faced something similar, but you're bringing up that, stirring that emotion, you're triggering that emotion in them. So any emotion, joy, happiness, laughter, anger, sadness, any sort of emotion. So let's get on to the content planning. Now, we're going to start on the, sort of do this the wrong way round, if you like, and we're going to start on the monthly plan. And let's start with, because we're in February, let's start with March, as the, obviously it makes sense. So we're going to note down any seasonal days in our calendar. Now, when you go through this for a year, it's somewhat easier because there are obviously lots and lots of different seasonal events that you can note in. But for March, as you can see, we've got Mother's Day coming up. If you want to extend it to April, then we've obviously got Good Friday and Easter Monday. So note down for your month's content all the days, all the seasonal days that there are. And don't forget that there are other seasonal days as well. So you could write down the August bank holiday, which is the 30th of August this year. The spring bank holiday is the 31st of May. The early May bank holiday is the 3rd of May. And then there's things like Halloween, Bonfire Night, Black Friday, Small Business Saturday, Cyber Monday, lots and lots of seasonal events that you could bring into your content. And have a think about how you could tie those in with your business. Now at this stage, let me just reiterate, we're not making hard and fast content. We're not thinking what exactly it is that we're going to post. If it comes to you while you're putting that content, then make a note of it. But at the moment, we're putting the bones in place that we're going to put the meat on later. So make a note of, as I say, of those seasonal dates. And think about how you could tie them in with your business. So for example, Valentine's Day, not particularly relevant for an awful lot of us unless we are gift retailers or perhaps some sort of mail order companies, but you can still tie it in with your business. It's a nationally, internationally recognized seasonal event. So you could create a post around, you know, what do you love about something X? Create a bit of controversy and say, something like, is Valentine's Day overrated? Have you seen the price of roses? Why do they go up, you know, 3 million% on the 13th of February? Is your partner romantic or not? Have a look out for my Valentine's Day post, which will probably be along the lines of how once, not with my husband now, how once I got given a kitchen bin as a Valentine's present. That was a day to remember, I can tell you. I wonder why that relationship didn't last. So you can use a meme. You know, there are various sites. If you Google meme generators, there are lots of sites where you can make your own memes very easily. You could use a GIF or a GIF. There's a very good site called Giphy, Giphy, where you can literally put in any search term and it'll come up with a load of different GIFs that you can use, most of them humorous. So your content here doesn't have to be directly business related. It could be quite tongue-in-cheek. It can be humorous. And don't underestimate the power of humor. We're going to look at the part that plays, but again, it's playing into that emotion, and it's creating that connection with our target audience, because we're saying, look, we find this funny. We're just like you. We're just human beings with senses of humor. So if we're looking at the Halloween, for example, we could do a post around what's scary about something relevant to your business. Or who was that? Yeah,
that's me. A lot of what I post is on LinkedIn, yep. But I do think it probably comes across as quite serious, and I don't really express my personality very much. Yep. Is there much of a role for humour on LinkedIn, would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. LinkedIn has changed over the course of the past year since lockdown, lockdown version 1 started. LinkedIn has changed and it's become a lot more relaxed. A lot more people have come onto it, and the audiences have grown and the engagement of people using the platform has grown. So there is a place, and it's all about, I'm not saying that you go on every day and you post this the joke of the week, joke of the day, but with the correct ratio, yes, you can. And it's a really good, really great idea, because it just demonstrates that human side and makes you, it's going to resonate with somebody, because as I say, there are, with the greatest of respect, there are hundreds of social media managers, hundreds of coaches on LinkedIn. What sets you apart is the fact that somebody's character clicks with yours.
Yeah, and I think that came through when we did the avatar. For some reason today, when I've done it, I've come up with completely different stuff, which has been really good.
That's interesting.
It just made me realise, actually, my favourite clients, whilst they have probably difficult problems to solve, I always have a laugh with them. So that's really nice. So actually, I need to attract more like that, really, that I just get on really well with. So I need to think about a bit more about my LinkedIn posts, really, because I don't think I probably get all of my work really through word of mouth. It's not through social media at the moment, but I need to work on that for new clients, really.
Yeah. So if you can, if you've got a favourite client like Yvonne, if you can sort of analyse what makes them your favourite client, what is it about them? Is it the fact that they're responsive? Is it the fact that they pay their bills on time? Is it the fact that they, that you can enjoy that bit of humour with them? What is it that you like? And then try and sort of reflect that in the content. Then you're onto a winner, because like attracts like. You're going to attract more people of that vein once you start putting it out there, so to speak. So we've got our seasonal dates in there. Now, You need to, particularly for retailers, you need to look at how far, or for promotional content, how far back you need to start working on a post that is promotional. So for example, if you're putting into your March calendar that you're going to have a spring sale or a spring event, it's no good, and that's going to take place on the 15th of March. It's no good starting to talk about that on the 14th of March, because you've missed the boat. You're going to have to start that content probably a month beforehand and start ramping it up. So you're going to start let's say your event is the 15th of March. You're going to start, depending on what day this falls on, but you're going to start middle of February. And you're going to start creating teaser content. So saying things like, you know, get ready, there's an exciting event happening, or something like that, but not giving the whole game away. So just building that anticipation about a month, minimum 2 weeks in advance. And then slowly over the course of the month, you're going to ramp it up till the actual event itself. So think about that. And think about how you're going to work that sort of content into your plan. What products, if you're running a sale or a promotional thing like that, what products are you going to focus on? What are you going to say? Mark down in your diary, that you're in your calendar, that you're going to start on whatever day. Now, for more ad hoc use of days like Mother's Day, Easter, unless you have a specific event going on, then you can just create content on the day, for that day, not on the day, for that day, and just post on that day. You obviously don't have to create content or think too much beforehand. Now, with festivals or seasonal events like Christmas, for example, we all know that Christmas starts sometime in September. No, not really. It starts sometime, you know, in November. The shops really start ramping up the Christmas spirit, the manufactured Christmas spirit that they promote. So you need to think about what needs to be done in the lead up to that point. Now, if you're using Pinterest, as some of you are, then Christmas on Pinterest actually starts in June. Pinterest has a far longer interest span, if that's the right word, than any other platform. So literally Christmas, people start searching for Christmas on Pinterest in June. So you might want to bear that in mind when you're creating your content. Now, other things that we've got in March happening, I think St. Patrick's Day is March, not quite sure on that. But you could think outside the box and think of the start of spring. What could you do about, what could you talk about? Could you take a picture of the bulbs in the garden, the daffodils coming up, assuming that they are up? So think about and pop in a couple of those seasonal dates on your calendar. Then once we've got those seasonal dates in our calendar, we're going to move on to national days. Now, hopefully, you may have with you, you may be able to either minimize this screen or use a smartphone if you've got it handy. And we're going to look at national days or awareness days, awareness weeks, awareness months. I've put 2 web addresses on there. There are lots and lots of different sites that give you the national days every month. The one I use most often is the second one, which is daysoftheyear.com. It's a really useful site. So you might want to just sort of minimize the screen and have a look at days of the year, concentrate on your March calendar and see if there are some days there that you could use. So I'll give you a couple of minutes to do that, and then I'll come back with what I've found for that day.
Hilarious. It's Fat Thursday today.
I saw that.
Yes,
I saw
brilliant.
that. Yeah.
It just made me chuckle.
Who on earth comes up with these days? Peppermint Patty Day?
Yeah. Anybody actually can come up with a day. You can create. I went on well, I didn't go on the webinar. It was part of a course, an event that I did a couple of years back. And there was one speaker there who was talking about how you create an awareness day. So you can literally create your own if you want to, if it hasn't already been created. Now, a lot of these days are, the majority of these sites are American or international, and that's okay. You know, you don't have to just stick to UK awareness days. It's perfectly fine. And ideally you want a combination, if you can, of sort of more serious ones that you can sort of tie in with your business, but also humorous ones. So for example, the lady who's the sort of well-being advisor, that was Laura, wasn't it? Was it Laura? Yeah. She might like to, you know, you might be able to use it in a serious way, mental health awareness week or month, and talk about that in terms of well-being. There'll be one for, I'm sure there must be a day for sort of gut appreciation, something like that. I'm sure there is. There's definitely one for kidney day. I saw that recently.
I'm craving donuts. Somebody worked with well-being. I want a Krispy Kreme now.
So maybe mark down on your calendar sort of 2 or 3 of awareness days for March. You ideally don't want to use too many more than 2 or 3, not unless you're really, really desperate for content. But mark down a couple, 2 or 3 that you could potentially use.
Valentine's Day apparently is also National No One Eats Alone Day. and National Cream-Filled Chocolates Day.
I'm quite liking the Good Hair Day in March, because nobody's going to have a good hair day if hairdressers don't reopen.
No.
Fabulous. I mean, some of them. I mean, International
long
Tug
past
of War Day.
Yeah,
Come
I'm long
on.
past a good hair day.
6 months.
But I mean, for somebody like Louise, Good Hair Day is something that they could sort of potentially tie into their, you know, legitimately tie into their business. Something like, what else have we got? Well, International Tug of War Day, Pro Sports Wives Day. God even knows what that is. Get Out Your Guitar Day. Now, I don't think anybody can necessarily use that.
I've got Secondhand Wardrobe Week, which is this week. I had no idea about that. That would have been really good to use.
Get something out there today. Get something. I'm going to be watching with bated breath.
The pressure. I can't keep up with you, Julia.
You had a good idea. Tuesday is Trove Tuesday, but it's also Almond Day, so I'm going to talk about almond flour pancakes rather than wheat flour. So thank you for that. I will plan that for next week.
Fabulous. So 2 or 3 a month in your plan, and you're going to want to use the appropriate hashtags. Every one of those awareness days will have a hashtag associated with it. That site usually gives the hashtag somewhere in the spiel that it tells you what the day is all about. It usually gives the hashtag, but I have noticed recently that it doesn't always now. I don't know why they've taken that off. But if you Google the awareness day, you will find somewhere in the results, you'll find that the relevant hashtag. And what that does is it categorizes that post, puts it into the big pot of all the posts that are created around whatever the day is, Almond Day, and then anybody who's looking at those posts has the potential to find your content too. So make sure you, whichever platform you use the appropriate hashtag.
Are there certain platforms that respond better to hashtags than others, and things like these international days? Because I know Facebook didn't used to, but now they use hashtags quite a lot, so I'm assuming that works well now. But I don't know about, I suppose Instagram's all hashtags, but LinkedIn, would you do an international day on there?
Yeah, all the platforms actually, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. Pinterest is slightly different. I'll come on to that. All of those you can now use you can use hashtags. Facebook, as you say, used not to be able to use hashtags, but they're now starting to introduce those. And I would say, whereas I've always said don't use hashtags on Facebook, because my particular peeve has always been when people share content from Instagram to Facebook, and it brings over that whole raft of content of hashtags with it, and that hasn't been relevant to Facebook beforehand. Now about I don't know, probably a couple of months ago, Facebook introduced or started recognizing hashtags. But National Days, Awareness Days are the sort of exception, so you can use a hashtag there for on any platform, because it's the way of sort of identifying that particular awareness day. As far as Pinterest is concerned, Pinterest sometimes Pinterest use hashtags, sometimes they say no, they're not relevant. I believe at the moment Pinterest are saying no, hashtags aren't relevant, but when I create my Pinterest content I use hashtags because it's easier to put them on at the moment than it is to go back through all the content and add them at a later date. So that's what I do personally for Pinterest. So you've got a few national days with the appropriate hashtags in your calendar. Now you might want to, as you go through and fill up your calendar, you might want to use different coloured, I should have told you this at the beginning, I expect, different coloured text, so that you can differentiate between the different types of content that you're going to be creating. So the next element of building our calendar is our own events. Now I know that this year and last year is a bit of an exception, because I mean, who's got an event going on? Not many of us. It's all a bit quiet on the Western Front, but ordinarily you might have a launch planned of a product, launch of a service, a workshop that you're either attending or that you're giving. Business anniversaries, what date is your business birthday? Put that in. And then any offers you have for any of those days, Black Friday, Small Business Saturday, Cyber Monday, January sale, spring sale, summer sale, autumn sale, winter sale. Now I suspect that this year there will be more content around Small Business Saturday. And it's actually a really good opportunity. It doesn't just apply to retailers, doesn't just apply to the big shops, big organizations that can afford to create loss leaders on their products. You can use, Black Friday, Small Business Saturday, Cyber Monday to your effect. And this is actually a great year to use it, because you can demonstrate that you're giving something back to your community after what's been a difficult year, longer than a year, for every small business. So you can create a sale, an offer. I'm not a retailer, but I always have an offer on Black Friday. So it might be a reduction on a course or a service for a limited period. So have a think about how you could use that, because I predict that this year is going to be a good year for that sort of content. And as we said before, you're going to ramp up your content. So you're not going to start whatever date Black Friday is, you're not going to start on the Thursday talking about it. You're going to start ramping up the anticipation at least 2 weeks beforehand. Coming soon. Now, when you're creating, so going back a step, industry events. For some industries, there are particular events that are relevant to them. So let's take the example of an accountant. 31st of January, filing of tax returns is a key date for them. The budget is a key date. I mean, the budget might be a key date for a net, because changes in interest rates, for example, might be relevant to provision of mortgages, or relevant to, you know, have a knock-on effect of what her target audience decides to do. Do they decide to stay, or do they decide to move house and get that mortgage? Financial planners, the budget obviously is going to be very relevant. So plan your content around those key dates for your industry. For Louise, it might be London Fashion Week. Could be lots of different events that you will know of, because that's your industry. And then create reminders. So for example, let's use the example of an accountant and tax return cut-offs. You're going to want to create content around reminders. Just because you know that date is set in stone in your brain, you know that tax returns have got to be filed by X date, doesn't necessarily follow that your audience will remember. So you can create reminders, even if it seems like, duh, who forgets that it's, you know, whatever date. You can still create reminders around it. Don't overestimate what your audience know. Have a think about the stage of life, the stage of consciousness, if you like, that they have, and plan content accordingly. So you might choose to post a reminder a week or so, a couple of weeks beforehand. You might choose to post a meme or a GIF about a feeling of relief once the date is done and dusted, or maybe, you know, a picture of somebody with piles of work on their desk, and that's you filing everybody's tax returns for them, that sort of thing. So there's lots of different content opportunities. Every day is a different content opportunity. So we've filled in now our own events. Now we're going to fill in the gaps, mind the gap. Fill in the gaps with content themes. Now we're going to look at two different types of themes here. Those that are based around your business, and those around wider interests. So let's start with the business one first. If I use myself as an example, then I might decide to create some themes around between 3 and 5 of my services, 3 and 5 of my offerings. So for example, I might create a theme of social media training. I might create a theme of social media management. One about my social media training group, membership group. One around power hours, the ability to spend an hour with me and focus in on your particular issues. So I'm going to give you sort of a couple of minutes now just to brainstorm a few of your products, your services, your areas of business that you could create you could identify as a content theme. Now, you might also want to base these themes around your different target audiences. So if you have a product that is relevant to, let's pick on Annette again, because she's right in my line of sight, first time buyers. And then you have a different sort of content theme for those people who are remortgaging, those people who want the other sort of financial services products, income protection and those sorts of things.
Sorry, Julia, I think this is where I struggle, because my content themes, I need to be advertising everything that we offer constantly to every type of learner we work with, and that could be a 16-year-old, a 19-year-old, somebody leaving the forces, employers needing to upskill, those that are unemployed. And I think that's where I'm struggling, because my head is like that all the time.
Yeah.
And it's knowing when I need to do that, because I'm recruiting constantly for our programs.
Okay.
Like it's National Apprenticeship Week in education this week, and the content that I see other providers putting up, I think, oh my God, they must have planned this months in advance. Well, we're a small business, so I haven't got the luxury of doing that. And then I find all this week I'm just grabbing at things because I don't know who to focus on, because it actually focuses on everything that we do. So it's really I'm really struggling with it.
So you need to, this is where the monthly calendar is going to come into its own with you, as well as the quarterly plan. So if you go back to off of the monthly diary and the quarterly plan, you'll be able to put in there the fact that in the first quarter National Apprenticeship, let's say we're doing it for next year, the first quarter National Apprenticeship Week occurs, and then when you've put all the information into, say, quarter one, you can transcribe that into your monthly calendar, and then you're prepared. The thing about wanting to broadcast to, set out all your wares, if you like, the problem with that is you need to plan very carefully, because the problem with saying we do this and we do this and we do this and we offer it to this person, this person, this person in one bit of content is that typically as consumers, what we do when we get when we're confused, when we get a mixed message, is we do nothing. So you need to laser focus in and interweave. So you need to segment your audiences to start with, and then you need to plan your content so that on a Monday, the first Monday of the month, for example, you're talking about X audience, the apprentices, say, with this content, and then the Wednesday, for example, or whenever, you're talking about this next one. It is down to the planning, and I get totally about small business.
Yeah,
of course I do, and I struggle as much as everybody else, because I spend so much time doing everybody else's social media that mine suffers. It's cobbler's shoes scenario. But we're going to talk about, if you sit down, if you block out, treat this like you would a meeting, block out 2 hours of your diary where you're not going to be disturbed, then you're going to find it a lot easier to come up with that content, because once your brain gets into it, the content will flow, and you'll be writing some content, and then you think, oh yeah, I could do this, and then you've got another post, and it will flow on a lot easier than trying to sit down on a Monday morning or whatever when the phone's ringing and you've got invoices to chase and you've got to speak to that person about this and trying to sort of fit it in.
Is it better, like at the moment, as I say, I use Canva to create all my posts because I find it really easy.
Yeah.
But I've then obviously got to resize it for Instagram, resize it for Twitter. Is there any platform when you can just do a post and it automatically resizes to where it needs to go? Because I spend half my life downloading, saving, uploading, downloading, and changing. and none of it links, and I've got to sit and go, you know, log on to every platform to send it. So it takes about an hour and a half just to do that.
Yeah. So we'll talk in a minute about scheduling tools. As far as Canva is concerned, if you opt for the social media size post,
yeah,
that will work for Facebook and Instagram. It's only really Twitter that you will then have to resize to.
Right, okay.
So Twitter is a totally different, it's like a longer platform. Facebook and Instagram are both sort of 800 by 800, I think the size is from memory.
Okay.
Twitter is different. So you can use the social media option on Canva for Facebook and Instagram and just resize to Twitter.
Okay. And you'd use the same post, if you're going to post something on one, use the same post throughout all?
That's a difficult one, because the rule of thumb, if I was speaking by the book, I should say, no, you must amend your content to the platform because your audience will be different. But invariably, we all do it. We all post the same sort of stuff. You might choose to just, if you're using a scheduler, it becomes slightly easier because you can just, as you're posting to Facebook, copy and paste it over to Instagram and then just alter the, you know, alter the content around a little bit. It's less of a job than having to sort of feel like you're reinventing the wheel.
Okay, thank you.
So content themes, hopefully you've all got sort of a few themes that you could, related to your business, that you could incorporate. So does anybody want to share one or more of their themes?
I came up with one that would have been awesome last week: coping with the Groundhog Day effect. I think it was last Monday was Groundhog Day.
Yeah. It's hindsight. You always see one that was yesterday. Oh crap! I could have used that.
And next year hopefully we won't be suffering from the Groundhog Day effect.
No, no, maybe not. Let's hope. Let's be positive. Let's be positive. What I should say also is that if you a shameless plug, if you want some easy inspiration for awareness days, I do a blog every month which has over 100, every month is over 100 different awareness days and national days in it. So and it also has sort of Canva images in it that you can download and use if you want to, and GIFs that you can download and copy and use. So if you don't want to use the National Days website, check that out, because it takes ages to write. I think there's 116 awareness days in Marches I've just done. So anybody else want to share any content themes with me? Anything they've written? Laura, how about you? She said picking mercilessly.
Okay, what I'm going to, actually I was quite stuck what to do for next week, so I'm going to do a relationship theme. So I've already mapped out, starting on Saturday the 13th through to Friday the 19th, is talk about it from the angle of some of the different services that I actually offer that support relationships, both couples but also working relationships. Combination of NLP and psychometrics I'm going to do. So thank you for that.
Fabulous, yeah. And content,
like I said, I tend to wing Facebook.
Okay, content themes can be just, you know, your content theme could be arranged so that every Thursday you talk about, or you know, once a week you talk about a particular theme, and that could run through the whole of your calendar. It doesn't have to be, or you can organize it like Laura's organized it, where you do a weekly theme, in which case you might want to extend your content to writing a blog about it. Once you've written a blog, you can then repurpose that into perhaps a video where you highlight the key points, post that to your social media. It's another way of saving time, repurposing content. So there's lots of different ways you can use. And then we're going to look at the other content theme, which is wider interests. Now, there are lots of, this could be absolutely anything. Again, you're going to sort of pick a couple that you could use, and things that would be of interest to your target audience. So, for example, I might choose, it could be anything. It's not related to your business, but it's there to build the know, like and trust, which is really imperative in the buyer-seller relationship. So example themes could be fitness, health and wellness, the moon. You're a sort of holistic therapist. Could be coffee, interiors, holidays. Remember those? Remember when we used to get those? Crafting. My particular favorite, cake, chocolate. You can see where my mind was going, coffee, cake and chocolate. So you might want to think of a few, again, sort of a couple, 2, 3 of those that are not related to business, but that you could potentially use to demonstrate your human side. Because remember, nobody buys from the CEO of, or the managing director of X organization. They buy from Jane Smith, who happens to be the managing director of X corporation, organization. So think of themes that work for you. What do you know, it could be, I don't know, pina coladas and walks in the rain. I don't know.
Well, you could do something nice around reading, for example, even as a sort of quite business focused or organizational focused coach around, this is my reading list for the last month, or what was yours, or.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, as a coach, that's brilliant to talk about, to bring that into the business side of the themes, and to talk about the book that you've read and who it would, you know, why it would appeal to your target, why your target audience should read it. She said, looking at her shelf with lots of books on it. Still to be read.
No, I'm never on top of my reading books. There's always a pile on the floor in the study of non-fiction, and then a pile in my Kindle of everything else.
Yeah. So again, you might want to brainstorm that. And once you've got that sort of that list, the best thing, we're not going to do it now, but the easiest thing to do is to just grab a pad of Post-it notes, maybe, to write your themes on one Post-it note each, and then to brainstorm, sort of post ideas, what you could talk about in those different areas. Highlight choose, you know, your top themes. If you've got a big list, highlight your top themes, keep the others for another time. And this is really anything to help people to get to know you and your business, and to build that relationship. So for example, you know, you might want to sort of set a timer for 10 minutes and just brainstorm for that. Write down any ideas. So for example, if my theme was coffee, I might decide that every Monday I'm going to decide to post something around coffee. Could be a photo of some latte art, maybe, or maybe it could be me sat, if I like having, you know, taking photos of myself. It could be me sat sipping my cup of coffee. How romantic. It could be me on a walk with a takeaway cup, or a throwback post of me enjoying a coffee at my local cafe, or something like that. Anything. And you might want to share that with your Monday morning coffee thought. My thought for the day is caffeine makes the world go round, something like that. Whatever your thought is. Now, you don't have to, not every post you create has to fit in these things. You can use quotes, inspirational quotes. Now, a lot of people, we all see the same quotes going around and around and around. But there is a point to inspirational quotes. Generally, psychologically, they feed into a deeper fear or need. So for example, using the example of a virtual assistant, again, they're trading their time. You know, their USP, if you like, is that they will give you back time in your day. So they might want to post an inspirational quote around the passage of time, because that's going to feed into the fear of their target audience, of the fact that they've got, you know, kids running around and they're missing the key dates because they're too busy tied up in their admin. They're not seeing their kids grow up. They're not getting that work-life balance right, all those sorts of things. So never underestimate the power of a good inspo quote. And then we'll just talk about ratios very quickly. In social media, how often do we post? What do we post? What sort of content do we post when? We generally follow the 80-20 rule, which is also called the Pareto principle. And that means that 80% of your content has to be, or should be, educational, inspirational, entertaining, or convincing. And the remaining 20%, 1 in 5, is promotional. So only 1 in 5 posts should be promotional. So plot that on your monthly grid. Make a star, perhaps, what's going to be your promotional day. Doesn't have to be the same day every week.
Could you say that again, please, Julia? What the 80% was? I missed. Yeah. I didn't get all of them.
It's there. It's entertaining, educational, inspirational, and convincing. And you've got some examples there. So in entertainment, you might want to post a poll, a light-hearted poll, or a quiz competition. Stay away from the like, comment, and share type competitions that you see on Facebook, because Facebook don't like them. Inspirational, we've just talked about. Convincing, case studies. Pick your best selling product or service, talk about the features of it. What are your clients getting for their money? A checklist, 10 top tips for styling your clothes according to your body shape. Educational infographics. Create an infographic on, again, there's a custom template on Canva. You know, I don't know, the best style of jeans to wear for your body shape. I've missed my vocation, Louise. I really have.
I actually wrote that down. Just so you go, say, yeah, jean style for your body shape. You are a star.
But it's fairly easy to do, and it all demonstrates, you know, you're demonstrating your expertise, which is really important, because you need to show that you are the person who is trustworthy. You need to demonstrate that trust. Entertainment, we've talked about. You know, laughter is an emotion. Never underestimate the power of a bit of a brief pause in everybody's stressful day, where they can just have a chuckle at something you've posted, or where you could post something that, you know, about the bad Monday you've had, where you've spilt coffee all down your front and it's only 8:30 or whatever. Inspiration we talked about, and convincing. Why should somebody make that purchase decision with you?
I love the use of the grid as well, Julia.
The grid, yeah, this is so old. I've used this. I was thinking, actually, as I put that in, made the slide, that is so, I've used that grid so many times for that. I never even knew it was a grid at the time.
You're just amazing. You know all these things.
Veritable font of useless information, I am. So you might want to create some posts that are around getting to know you, because we all tend to assume that our audience on Facebook or Instagram or wherever have been with us since the beginning, but of course that's not the case. So they won't necessarily know our backstory. And especially if we're creating content on LinkedIn, LinkedIn is a great place to tell our to almost, you know, tongue in cheek, a sort of rags to riches story. What inspired us? You know, what difficulties, what humps in the road did we face on our journey to get to where we are now? Why did we start our business? What's our why? What are we, you know, what's unique about us? What makes us tick? Facebook, maybe a post around which of these facts about me is fake. Family, depending on if you're comfortable, you know, you can share, go as deep and share as much as, or as little as you like, because it's all about shared experience. It's about resonating with that target audience. How I started running a business, the day-to-day of running my business. Shout outs to the people who've helped me in my business journey, sharing knowledge about running a business. All our content should be aimed at giving value. What value? Ask yourself, what value? What is my ideal client going to get out of this content? Even the entertainment stuff, the humorous stuff, they're still getting something out of it. And actually, it's the entertaining stuff that is likely to get shared more than anything else. I posted, I think it was 3 or 4 years ago, I posted a video, short video of some Amish people in America moving a barn. And they literally were hundreds of these men in black hats and black overcoats. And they literally stood in a line. You can find it on my Facebook page. Picked the barn up and literally moved it to the new position and put it down. And I think I shared that with just a comment saying, you know, moving the Amish way or something like that. And that's been shared, I think yesterday it got shared again, and that's 119 shares of just that one post. So it's the sort of, you know, I know that I will not get that amount of shares on a post about my services. So
get a lot of interaction like that. Does it then mean that your next post is more likely to be seen, or how does it work? Because I've noticed that, you know, I can go weeks with like 1 or 2 views of anything, and then if suddenly something gets picked up and shared, then the views after that seem to be higher. And is that part of the algorithm that suddenly it gets more exposure?
Yeah, on Facebook, certainly what happens is Facebook will generally show your content to only 10% of your audience.
Okay.
If those 10% then engage with it, so anything above a like, so a comment or a share, then that sort of wakes Facebook up, wakes the algorithm up, and it thinks, oh, this is quality content. We need to show this to a bigger audience. So they'll then expand the audience that they show it to, and so that will last. You know, if you could maintain that consistency, then you'd be consistently growing your audience. But life's not like that. Yeah. So the key is to sort of try and to measure the results you're getting, and to try and analyze why it is that one particular post has got that better engagement, and then to try and do more of that.
My personal posts that get more likes, but they're completely unrelated to what I do. So it's about, so I don't know whether I need to do like a personal post now and again, and then follow it up quickly with some other content, and whether that helps.
I would say 2 things. Make sure that if we're talking Facebook, it's a postman coming. If it's Facebook, make sure that you have in your personal profile, make sure that you have where you work and have it sort of linked. You can sort of put where you work and it will link over to your business page, so that anybody who, if you go into a group, say for example, and post as yourself, if anybody hovers over and gets the little thumbnail of who you are, it will say works at or founder of or whatever it is. Also make sure that you share content from your business page to your personal page, so that if somebody lands on your personal page, they can see quite easily what you do, who you are in business. LinkedIn and Instagram, interestingly, are not intelligent beings. So with the LinkedIn and Instagram algorithm, when you post something, go in and like it yourself. It's not big-headed. LinkedIn will just see the engagement. It doesn't see where the engagement's coming from. So go and like it or share it, or, you know, save it rather than not share it. Save the post to give yourself a head start. So we've got that, and I can easily send that little graphic to anybody if they decide they want that. So we've done our brainstorm. Remember, we're not planning out all our posts. We're just getting some sort of skeletal ideas in place. Now, the other area that we can look at is curated content that we bring in from third party. And there are various sites that you can use. These are the two of the sites that professional social media managers, for example, social media people, marketing people will use on a regular basis. DrumUp is a sort of a slightly dumbed down version of Feedly. Feedly is the one that I use most regularly. It's very easy to use. Go in, set up an account, it's free. And then you're going to want to put in effectively some search terms around your audience. So what is it you are looking for? So it could be that you want to, I'm using Louise because it's easy for me. I know probably a little bit more about women's fashion than I do about mortgages or anything else. So for Louise, she might want to put in women's style, in which case it's going to, Feedly is then going to bring up a lot of magazines, a lot of industry journals, a lot of blogs all around women's style. And she might then want to follow Vogue in all its different iterations and all the other style. I'm sure there'll be something there. You can also follow Google searches, so there will be something there for Paris Fashion Week, London Fashion Week, whatever. Anything that's related. So you just click what you want to follow, and then when you next go in, Feedly will very cleverly bring together a load of content, magazine articles, blogs relating to that search term, and you can then take the URL of the article, post it into wherever, Facebook, LinkedIn, write your important bit as writing your viewpoint, writing your introduction to that article. Don't tend to just post it per se. Write your little bit about it, post it. And you can use that content. It doesn't have to be really up to date. You know, if you've come across an article that's 2 years old, that's relevant to still relevant and still pertinent, then use it by all means. So you can fill in the gaps with that content. So a recap, your content comprises your seasonal events, any business industry events, national days, awareness weeks, awareness months, your themes ×2, business themes and personal themes, and then your curated content, which I haven't put in there. So you're going to plot those into your calendar. Now, when it comes to your themes, you're going to want to order those by importance. So for example, for me, I need you to know more about social media than I do about my coffee habits. So I'm going to give priority to social media. That's going to be predominant in my calendar. And decide how many posts you're going to share each week for each theme. For example, 2 posts per week about social media, and 1 post about my social media membership group, for example, and then 1 post every 2 weeks about family. 1 post every week on a Monday, my coffee thought with Julia. So then we get on to the thorny subject of how often should you post. Now, as a rule of thumb, this is the bit where everybody goes, how much? You should be posting once a day to Facebook, once a day to Instagram, 2 or 3 times a week to LinkedIn, and what's the one I've missed? Twitter, 5 tweets a day. Because the average lifespan of a tweet is only 18 minutes. So you need to keep that consistency. Pinterest, you need to be pinning, I think it's something like 30 pins a day. Not all your own, other people's as well. But having said that, that is a rule of thumb. If you don't want to post to Facebook, for example, every day, 7 days a week, then that's absolutely fine. I would say as a bare minimum, do 2 or 3 times a week. It's far better to have quality content that's aimed at your audience than it is to have crappy content that's just going out every day because you feel it's the right thing you should do. But be consistent. Don't think that you can, you know, post on LinkedIn every day for a month and then for 6 months you're not going to post anything. You've got to keep that, because it's all built on momentum. So you've got to keep that momentum going. And again, it all comes down to knowing that audience. So you can find out when to post, when is the best time to post, dependent on your audience. So if your audience locality, so if your audience is based in the UK, your common sense probably going to want to post somewhere between 6 a.m. and let's say 10 at night, unless you have a particularly niche audience. For example, nursing mothers, you might want to post during the night when they're feeding the baby, whatever, but generally between those hours. If your audience is based in New Zealand, Australia, you're going to want to post when they're up, which is obviously our night. You can find when your particular audience is online. If you go into the insights section of your Facebook page, and you can do this on Twitter as well, and you can do this on Instagram, go into the insights and look at there's a graph that's when to post. You'll see that your audience, see when most of your audience is online. Arrange your posts around that time. Instagram, invariably it's between 6 and 9 p.m. because again, that's when we all sit down and fiddle with our phones. But with Facebook, it could be during lunchtime, it could be first thing in the morning, it could be in the evening, depending on what your audience looks like. So have a look at that, and then test a month of posts at 9 a.m. as opposed to 1 p.m. and see what the results are. Now, we talked very briefly with Rachel about scheduling tools. There are lots and lots of different scheduling tools. I use a scheduler. There is no way that I want to sit in front of Facebook or wherever all day and be present on social media at a particular time I'm going to post, because I've got other things that I want and need to be doing. So I use scheduling tools. Yes, that means that your reach will be lower, but it is a price that I'm willing to pay. So scheduling tools, there are 2 types. One is the sort of plug and play, where you just pop your content in on a particular day. You're given a view of a monthly calendar, as it were, a weekly calendar. Pop your content in, schedule it for the day and time you want it to go out, and it will sit there and it will go out at the prescribed day and time. Examples of those are Hootsuite and Buffer, the brand leaders, but there are lots of different other ones. Later is one.
Sorry, what was the first one?
Buffer, B-U-F-F-E-R.
The one you said before that, Hootsuite or something? Hootsuite.
Yeah, H-O-O-T-S-U-I-T-E, Hootsuite.
I had a really bad experience with both of those, because they kept saying that my passwords had been changed, and then I had loads of content planned and none of it went out. So
Yeah.
That's why I went back to doing it all manually, because it just wasn't doing what I needed it to do. It was just driving me crazy.
Yeah, the problem, the bugbear I have with with both of those is that they're based in the USA, and it used to be online chat, certainly for Hootsuite. Buffer, I don't think has ever had it, but Hootsuite used to have an online chat facility, so you could get sort of help, and then they stopped doing that. This is on the paid plans as well. They stopped doing that, so the only way you could reach them would be by email, or you could tweet them, but then you'd have to wait 24 hours at least for them to respond on Twitter before you've even, you know, been told to turn it off at the plug and switch it back on again, or whatever it is that is the standard response. So I tend to, when I'm choosing schedulers, I tend to look at, you know, their customer service provision as one of my main priorities. The other type of scheduler you can use is one that's more like a repository, where you do a lot of the footwork in the beginning. You create a lot of content, and it goes into sort of a pot, and then it posts out according to how you set up your schedule. It just automatically posts, goes back into that pot, and will repost once everything you've got in there has posted once. And that's fine if you've got what we call evergreen content, which is your sort of promotional stuff. So examples of that are Meet Edgar, all one word, and the one I use is Smarter Q, which, if anybody's interested in, I do have an affiliate link for, which gives you a longer trial period. So if anybody wants that, give me a shout. Entirely up to you. They're all much for muchness. They all do the same sort of thing. It's up to you, whatever works best for you, which you find easier to use. And then you want to sort of almost plump your pillows, as it were, before you post. So you want to engage before your post. If you know that you've got a Facebook post going out at 1 p.m, go into the platform and engage with people for 15 minutes on the day before that post goes out, so 12:45, and then 15 minutes after that post goes out. The same on Instagram, because that will hopefully work towards your engagement, because people see you engaging and they check out your content. It's fresh, it's new. That it's sort of encouraging them to engage with you. And the best idea is to just do a bit of content writing every day, or a little and often every day. You don't have to. It's better to go into Facebook every day and just do 15 minutes than it is to splurge it and binge it once a week. You'll get better results. So work your calendar month by month, a bit every day if you can. Set aside time to write content, and that could be monthly, it could be fortnightly, it could be weekly. Time to make the videos if you're going to use videos. Time to collate the imagery. So you know that Monday to Sunday your posts are going to be A, B, C onwards, and you've got the imagery that you're going to use for each of those posts. So you haven't got to spend time then on the day thinking, okay, I'm going to post this, and then I've got to find an image of somebody with a coffee cup or whatever.
What video do you use, Julia, if you're going to create videos?
I use Lumen 5, Lumen 5. Is useful if you've got a blog, because what it will do is it will automatically take the content from a blog, and it will create a little slideshow, which is, I'm trying to think, I think it's 3 minutes long, so it's only really short, but 3 minutes is the optimal length of video for social media anyway. And it will it'll highlight what it thinks are key points of your blog. Sometimes you do have to tweak it a little bit, and it'll assign images, which again you can change, and it creates this sort of video of the key points. Takes, you know, minutes, probably 10 minutes to create, maybe slightly longer, to create a video. If I'm just talking to camera, then I do it in Zoom generally, and upload that.
Lumia 500.
Lumen 5, yeah.
Lumen 5.
Yeah. Lumen, yeah, free tool again. If not, there are various other video platforms you can use. Loomly or Loom, I think it's called, Loom, or it might be Loomly, can't remember. That's one, and the other one is Soapbox is another one. All ones that you can just create, they're all free, just create little sort of video snippets if you want to. Now remember
is video popular? Does video tend to?
Yeah, any visual content will always get more engagement than written content. I think the figure from memory is something like 79% more engagement than written text-only content, because it's easier for the brain to process images and video than it is for us to sit and, you know, read stuff. If you're posting video, try and add subtitles.
Yeah,
a lot of platforms allow you to now add captions to it. If you're doing a longer video, then there are software apps that you can use where they will assign subtitles to them. The one that's most popular is called rev.com, rev.com. It's literally, it's very, very cheap, and I think it's sort of 24-hour service. Really, they will, you send your video off and they will subtitle it for you, get it back within 24 hours, and I think it costs $1 a minute, something like that. So it's really cheap to do, and the results are fine. You might just have to tweak the odd word.
$1 per minute of video.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah,
$3 per 3-minute video.
Yeah. If you're doing a longer video, then you know, it may pay, and you know, will have a reasonable, return on investment. The reason why you want to put videos on is because a huge percentage of people watch videos with the sound down, probably because or whatever. So
very, very seldom turn the sound on, so I quite like the subtitles.
Yeah, subtitles just make it easy. So when you've done all that, you're going to measure what went well, what didn't work well, tweak it. If something doesn't go well, don't throw the idea, the concept out straight away. Have a think about how you could repurpose it, refashion it, reformat it. Could you use a different image? Was it the image that was a bit off key, didn't resonate? Maybe you just promoted something too late. Maybe the messaging just wasn't quite on target. So have another go, because the one thing that's true about marketing is that it's flexible. It's meant to move with the times. So something that works really well today may not work well tomorrow. It's all about flexing with the market, because consumers we're all a fickle bunch. So nothing is set in stone, and everything changes. So don't put your content plan in stone and leave it. If you're planning a year in advance, make sure that you are reviewing. Don't schedule it a year in advance. Do it maximum a month by month, because if there's one thing that COVID has taught us, it must be that plans can go just like that. And in lockdown 1, I spent the first month of lockdown redoing a lot of content that had been scheduled for clients, where the tone of voice or the message was now sort of slightly off, you know, wasn't quite tactful or wasn't quite right. So don't schedule too far in advance, and be mindful of changing situations. Yeah, so that's it. I've talked briefly about my the membership group I run. It has video walkthroughs of all the major platforms, downloads, lots of freebies that I give away in the group. You might even find that, probably have got that content grid in the group somewhere. And there's a Facebook group, and there's a link there if you do want to check it out. It's £1 for the first month, so you can try it before you go any further. and then £20 per month thereafter. And if anybody's got any queries, then email me on my email address there. So has anybody got any questions? Anything that I haven't answered? Any confusion? It's entirely possible.
My only question is, when I do a post for my business, because I want to post it on my own page, and then I post it on Ngapo Connect, and I post it on Somerset Ladies, is there something in the scheduler that will allow me to do that on all the different pages, or will it just allow me to do it on one?
No, you'd have to do that. You're talking Facebook, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you'd have to do that manually. There's nothing, unfortunately, that will allow you to take access to a Facebook group unless you are an administrator of that group, in which case you could potentially add it to a scheduler, but you can't if you're just a casual visitor, as it were. But what you could do to make it easier is to set up the groups on your Facebook page, and I'm making a note because I'll do a video on it. You can pin, I think it's 10 groups to the top of your groups list, which is on the left hand side of the Facebook page, which you might want to sort of put your key groups that you're sharing in as the top ones, and then you haven't got to think, oh right, so Somerset Ladies, where are they? Somerset Ladies, and type it all in. It just makes it that step a little bit easier. That's the only way around it, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question, Julia.
Yeah.
I recorded via Zoom a video with a client, and she basically, it was like a video testimonial type thing.
Yeah.
But it lasts about 15 minutes.
Yeah. What
is the best way for me to share this? Because I've not put anything out because I have to cut it, and I don't know how to do that because I'm so technical. What's the best way for me to share it? Is it for me to put like the link to it to something else, like if I was to do a blog or something like that I've not got around to yet either, or could I don't know if I can take snippets out of it and post them on Insta or Facebook? How would you go about that?
Yeah, you no doubt could. It might be, it depends. There's several ways that you could do it. So you might have to outsource. You could take snippets, but you might have to outsource that to somebody who knows about video editing. Wouldn't necessarily cost an awful lot. There are lots of virtual assistants, for example, that would know how to do that. I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
So that's something that I outsource.
Yeah.
That's one option. The other option would be because 15 minutes is a little bit long, it's too long for your social media. Your audience won't typically sit and watch 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Socials. So you could, if you had a YouTube channel, for example, you could post it into YouTube and then share the link to Facebook. That would be another way. You could take key points out of it, the main sort of testimonial bits, and create graphics from it.
Now you're talking. Oh my God.
Those. But I think the 15-minute video in itself is going to be too long for
anything like that.
For gainful
yeah.
It's going to take.
I was wondering what's the best way. Is it best to maybe write a blog and have that link to the video with it?
I would write a blog. So write a case study around this lady's experience. I would include in that text some key snippets of, as a quote of, Louise was great, she did XYZ, that sort of thing. And then I would embed the video, pop the video into the blog, which is fairly straightforward if you're using WordPress. Or where's your website?
My website.
Is it WordPress website or a Wix or?
It's Wix.
Wix. Okay. So yeah, you should be able to attach by embed. It means that if that's your blog.
Yeah.
Do that. Your video would actually be visible. The thumbnail would be visible on your screen somewhere in the writing, so it would sort of look like that to the
Yeah,
person,
okay.
rather than just being a link.
Thank you.